Noni Madueke feels ready to take off. His performance in Arsenal's 3-0 win against Nottingham Forest was one of many new faces who flourished, but for me was indicative of exactly what I've been suggesting since the signing. The courage, the conviction, the joy which Mikel Arteta cited himself in his post-match comments about Madueke. Comments we will return to in today's video. I've rewatched the match and analysed every single Noni Madueke action for you, and this is not just going to be a simple description of what you're seeing on screen, but I'm going to be explaining why Madueke feels so unstoppable in those 1v1s, how he can repeat such intensity across a whole match, and how Arsenal's very in-possession dynamics cater to his explosiveness, his urgency and progressive qualities. But also, as I always look to do, I want to look at how Madueke can further improve if he is genuinely to explode. For example, I'll be diving into his ball striking in some of these clips I'm going to show, and his interactions with teammates in the final third. Welcome back to the Harvey Gratian YouTube channel. I'm so glad you found us or are joining us once again. And this, hopefully, is going to be a really fascinating video. In this analysis of Madueke, I'm going to run things in the Nottingham Forest match chronologically. We'll start with his general setting in this Arsenal team, positioned on the right wing as the real outlet for our swirling, fluid build-up, as you'll see, which was always looking to release Madueke as that outball. Here, it's Mikel Merino dropping in next to Zubimendi, but Calafiori, who in this shot has moved outside Eze, roamed as ever. Odegaard then replaced by Nwaneri, dropped and floated, and Mosquera, who is very important to accessing Madueke directly, was given the on-ball responsibility as that backline leader in that back three. Madueke's first real involvement was when he found Anderson up behind him and Hudson-Odoi biting in too. One of Madueke's less headline grabby but real skills is how he maintains his balance in these chaotic, cramped moments, shielding the ball by using his arms to fend off and those legs to wriggle free. He can pin like this much more easily on the right-hand side because he can also threaten that double movement in behind. On the 12th minute though, Madueke comes to life, as I will continue to say, if as a defender you're not immediately touch tight to Madueke, he claims those first few yards instantly, getting into stride and gathering wind in his sails. He's happy to stretch wide and then get on the move. Often, all you can do in these situations as a fullback is backpedal. Morato, not for the first time, decides to bite instead, and with that momentum Noni builds in such a small window, he knocks it on the outside and he beats Morato. I want to bring you back to this still. Look how prediction neutral or intention neutral Madueke is. He's angled in a way where you can't really get a glean or a hint of which way he's going to go. And when you have his physical gifts, you can be reactive, you can play off feel. He shows real care in this example too, clipping the ball into the box with his weak foot, which is a massive positive for me. It's a little heavy, the cross, but as far as setups in the box go, with Merino leaning and jumping at the back post, Gyökeres darting on the near post, and Eze looking to sweep up, that's pretty perfect. This next passage is brilliant because it ties in Madueke's role with our build-up. Mosquera here is playing with his angles, manipulating Gibbs-White's positioning, showing a real authority, as is Zubimendi, who drifts to receive, but more importantly drifts to open up a lane for Mosquera to wrap one into Nwaneri, who has pinned Anderson high before dropping himself, spinning and progressing to Madueke, who, because of the aggression of Forest's man-to-man marking high up the pitch, I mean, just look at how far Odoi has tracked Calafiori, but also Forest's worryingly deep defensive line. Madueke has all the space to pick up and drive into. This time, Madueke is freed more directly by Mosquera, with Nwaneri this time drifting central and opening up that route. And look at the urgency from Madueke to get sprinting straight away, forcing backtracking. He is technically doubled up on, but that impossible decision of engaging or sitting off that you have to make when you don't get touch tight to Madueke means that he still has so much space to use. He ducks and drives, but shows some of the variety that will surface more and more in this video, playing it into Gyökeres and looking to combine. We've hit 20 minutes and Madueke's confidence is building. Again, if he receives it in situations like this, with travel time having stretched the pitch, he looks pretty inevitable. Look at the variety, faking an early cross, chopping and driving outside. Again, there's a real care to the weak foot cross, and it's perfectly hit this time, with Gyökeres, who you want more gobbling loose balls, still feeling out that duo with Merino inside the box. Eze's movement though here is very clever. This is my favourite passage of the match because we are talking about Madueke developing a real unpredictability to his game, as Arteta used the word himself. And that doesn't just mean how he attacks the fullback. Here Mosquera sweeps one out to Nwaneri. Anderson doesn't want to be pulled out, but he has to be. Nwaneri and Madueke give and go. And normally this would see Noni spearing in behind, but the fluidity which Zubimendi triggers in our build-up is on show as Nwaneri's speedy simplicity slips him in and Zubimendi carries and sets up Eze. Then you start to add and see Noni's stop-start burst, which is already the best at the club by some margin. Again, looking to exploit that space down the line and eliminate the unsupported Ndoye, who is back defending. In my scouting report on Madueke, I spoke about how not rushing that last action is the key for him, and this extra touch that you see in this passage continues the carry and deceives Anderson. And the reasoning behind me wanting to see more of this is about the game opening up for Madueke naturally. Sometimes it's just about patience and waiting for pictures. Here, you're probably lacking, from Arsenal's point of view, a 6-yard box option for Noni to cut it back to. The corner, though, comes from it, and we know what happens next. I think more set-piece taking will improve one of Madueke's, not his issues, but real margins for improvement if he's truly going to explode. He's got these long golf club-like legs which generate so much speed and power, but often see Madueke, especially in my digging around him, lean back and not put the whole of his body into his striking. Let me show you what I mean, because I think I've found the perfect next example. This comes just before half-time. Noni's stretching, he's going immediately, and with Calafiori dragging Anderson lower, Noni cuts in and hits an early cross. Again, it's that kind of variety that we're looking for. It looks so difficult to stop or even to predict what Madueke is going to choose to create with. But I want to just backtrack a bit. When you create this much separation in such little time from your defender, you can afford to take an extra step to consolidate yourself. It's great that Madueke swings the ball in so early, but with the speed he's going at, it's nearly impossible to get himself over the ball without losing balance. So I'm going to pause it here. Look how he's leaning back. His foot feels a bit too far away from his head for me. And as it is cleared by Milenkovic, look how Madueke's trying to stop his momentum a little bit, trying to stop falling over. But this can only be a positive because of how repeatable these actions are, its reps, because of how coachable this technical point is. It's a care as well that he's already shown signs of developing. Remember how I described Madueke's dribbling in the scouting report? I called it tag-along dribbling. Well, we see it here perfectly. Look how he attaches the ball to his back foot, tagging the defender along with the fluency of his touches. It's a fluency though that's almost limping in rhythm, lulling Williams before exploding down the line after a step over. More variety is on show yet again, but look how Madueke keeps his balance even as he's being bundled and knocked into. He may seem awkward, he may seem rangy at times, Madueke, but that is just aesthetics, because at the same time this legginess is how he bursts with so much power over short or long distances with that span that he has, and he never compromises his balance in this dribbling either. Now these next couple of sequences were probably the most exciting for me in terms of Noni's growth as a player. These are super nerdy, super detailed bits, and it's none of the flashy stuff that we've already covered. First, Eze glides through those carry zones that he loves, releasing and crisscrossing with Gyökeres in the process, and this is one of those quite natural movement patterns this pair are going to repeat if they play together a lot, although it will be mostly Eze ducking inside and slipping in Gyökeres on the reverse here. But as Gyökeres drives on, he finds Madueke well, and look at how hesitant Williams is to engage anywhere near Noni, but there is just probably a body too much in the way for Madueke to shoot. so he waits for the picture to open up. And this is honestly so intelligent, because Madueke doesn't just wait, but he's faking, he's turning defenders blind, he's cutting in to shift them one way, and then he's playing in Gyökeres the other, who slams the upright. He repeats this to an even better standard for Jurrien Timber, who isn't anywhere near the first shot. It's Nwaneri who releases Madueke as our outball from the build-up, that release valve, and he's got men in the way again, but as we've seen, and this isn't a criticism by the way, just an observation of Martinelli, we've seen him in these positions on the left-hand side before, slowing the attack down, and that would mean we would run out of room. But not with Madueke. He's not just sitting on the ball, but he's adjusting, deceiving, maintaining almost a zone of no entry, a kind of radius of 2-3 yards around him before slipping in Timber. Madueke probably gets a shout from Timber, but do you realise how difficult it is to never look up once, to play that pass to Timber blindly and perfectly weighted at the same time? And it should result in a Declan Rice goal. Because this was not a poor end product game, which meant Madueke didn't end up with a direct goal contribution. His threat was constant and his quality was sustained. Mikel afterwards was the first to jump to how repeatable Madueke's intensity, sprints and take-ons are. There was never any breather in the match too. Look at this winger-to-winger connection from Eze as he switches to Madueke, who gets going, of course, immediately. It's relentless. Look at Madueke's stride length as he breezes past Williams twice in 15 minutes, like he's barely there. I love the switch from Gabriel to Madueke in this last example too. To finish though, this repeatability becomes doubly impressive and doubly lovable from a fan's perspective when you see how his levels never dropped and arguably raised off the ball. He was harrying, covering angles aggressively, wrestling on the touchline, turning the ball over, whipping up the crowd. I don't care about anything else. If you can't get behind that, I don't know what to tell you. For me, as I've said before, right wing is where Madueke has his full bag of tricks. He's at his most unpredictable and most free here. He's genuine depth for Saka. But when our star boy does return, naturally, Madueke looks more like this explosive and increasingly aware and reliable option on either flank, with most probably his minutes, or the majority of his minutes, moving out to the left, or maybe some really important late game cameos from the right wing, which I'm really excited to see. I hope this video has shown though why you should be such a big Madueke believer, just as much for the application as the football. But also, staying level-headed, we should demand even more of him. Can he find that same repeatability in his take-ons, in his crossing? Can he work the angles from shots the same way he's shown, whether it's on the right or the left? He can bring in others and interact with them. That's the key. And the answer for me is yes. And the final look of that yes is a player who begins to make 52 million look like a steal. There's plenty to work on, but there's even more to be enthusiastic about. And I think that goes for Arsenal's season as a whole. The challenge is massive. I'm not going to downplay the task at hand, but we should confidently demand success this season from this group. And players like Madueke, I don't think are going to shirk the responsibility of that mantle. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.